All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to High Functioning Anxiety Tell All. We're here with our second show. Hopefully, you guys are learning some things. We're definitely learning some things along the process here. Um, we are here with Morgan and Wendee, and my name's Jenna, intuitive life coach, holistic health practitioner. Morgan works with anxiety roots for empaths and highly sensitive persons. Wendee is a neurosomatic intelligence practitioner. We like to help people dealing with some maybe overwhelming anxiety and just want to kind of give in some real life insight into how we in three different lenses kind of manage our own anxiety, and we want to just bring it to uh, almost a normalcy. It just, anxiety doesn't have to be scary. It's like Wendee says, it's a signal that is for it to pay attention to, basically. So today's topic, we'll do a little bit of intros, then we'll go into today's topic of when stress becomes physical. So anxiety, immunity, and the body's breaking point. So kind of talking about all of that from our three different lenses. We'll talk about this for about 30 minutes or so, and then we'll go into any questions if there's any for our live viewers if there's any questions. So, um, Morgan, do you want to say hi?
Sure. So just a little background info about me. I'll get into it, but I was on the hunt to figure out what was going on at a very young age for a long time, had 35 to 40 insane symptoms that if I was probably older, I would be on a lot of medication for, and no doctor could tell me what was going on. It ended up being compounding stress, compounding anxiety that wasn't really being addressed, and it showed up very, very physical in my body. And so now I really support women, families, men in a couple different lenses, but especially people who are HSPs, empaths, introverts. And something I'll just add a little nuance that I keep hearing lately is introvert from the definition of really revving up that energy in your peace when you're alone or even with the right people, as opposed to some people who go, well, I'm not sure I'm an introvert. I love people. And I've been hearing that a lot more lately, and I'm like, okay, wait, different definition of introvert, because I understand we could all relate in different ways. But love people, and my come from is really supporting habits, lifestyle support, and now really bringing in the functional lab work and studying what's going on inside that is connected to some of these biographic, our story, and what's coming up for us and our symptoms now that might be more intangible, talking about anxiety and ruminating in some things of the mind. And that's me.
Beautiful. Thank you. Wendee, do you want to give your intro?
Sure, I'm Wendee. I'm a neurosomatic intelligence practitioner, and much like Morgan, my journey started early, but I didn't know what was causing all these different symptoms, and I just kept thinking, oh, if I only tried harder, if I try to focus more, and all of those just led me to a lot of self-beat up until I just got to a place where I felt very anxious, but didn't know that that's what anxiety was. I just kept thinking, oh, well, other people don't experience this. So I pushed through even more until my body just said no more. And I thought I was having a medical emergency. And that is when my nervous system got my attention. And I went through really figuring out what the root cause was, finding ways to support myself, and realizing that my nervous system had been waving its arms and like screaming at me for years. And I just kept thinking, no, if I could just be better. And no, I really just needed to support my nervous system. And so, with the tools that I healed myself, I then wanted to take that out to other moms and kids and support them because I don't wish that on anybody. And I wanted them to be empowered by it and know that these are tools they could bring with them, like in any moment, because I've had my fair share of anxiety in the middle of the night and thinking, nobody is awake. Who am I going to call? So that's how I got into doing what I do and supporting who I support.
Wonderful. Thank you. And everybody, I'm Jenna. So my stories, I guess it starts back in nursing school, really. So my background, I am a RN turned holistic health practitioner. I started actually, I've always kind of dealt with some anxiety, depression, and nursing school really was tough. It was kind of a lot like boot camp in a way, just for the mind. And I had started to experience actually blood sugar drops. And I didn't really think anything of it. I just ate more protein. Um, I just kept going, and there was some underlying things going on, but I just kept going. And this kind of ties right in with our topic today, when stress becomes physical, like we're discussing. But it took several years for me to just keep pushing through until I did get to a breaking point. And to be honest, like COVID really set me over the edge. At that point, I'd been an acute care nurse dealing with some pretty intense situations at times for 10 years, and not to mention other life things. And um, my doctors that I pretty much the ones that I worked alongside of um, weren't really hearing me. I kept saying, okay, yes, I do have a history of anxiety. Yes, I do have a history of depression, but there's something else going on that I feel that I can't really explain. And I need help trying to figure this out. And they unfortunately, the doctors nowadays, they just don't have time to really help you be an investigator, which is where my functional nutrition came in. I started using food to heal my body. And at one point, your stress, I can if is it okay if I just go into this, girls?
Oh yeah, take it
Yeah.
away, girl.
Okay. Um, because the stress ended up causing a big gut imbalance. I ended up with, um, and not that I am self-diagnosing, but I had symptoms that were similar to small intestinal bowel overgrowth or bacteria overgrowth, sorry, SIBO. People call it SIBO. That also was a candida overgrowth, and the candida um, had flourished so much in all of my stress and all the hormones, and it was kind of feeding off of it. And it ended up at this point, I wasn't in the hospital anymore. I was a telephonic triage nurse where I used my voice to talk to people on the phone daily. And um, this one of the symptoms that it led to, because I wasn't treating the issue, was I ended up losing my voice for it was a total of 22 days. And yeah, it was very hard to work through that, not to mention just the extreme fatigue, my adrenal glands, just because of like they are constantly just pumping out cortisol and all these different hormones. Like they was exhausted. I was in adrenal gland exhaustion. Um, so it got to a point because I wasn't getting the correct help, and also I was very winded, like walking through the grocery store even. And here I was, at that point I was 33, 34. and I had been pretty active. I was a runner. I did the San Diego half marathon like 3 years before, so it wasn't like I was terribly out of shape. But here I'm now walking through a grocery store getting winded. And I did have asthma most of my life, but this was a different type of winded. It wasn't like the bronchioles were constricting or anything. It was just very different, and I didn't have a voice. It was almost like the brain fog was just intense, and I actually have people who can vouch for me during that time. It was hard for me to even get 2 sentences out. And that was from all the candida that was growing in my gut, disrupting my soil. That basically, if you think of yourself as a tree, that all of your roots, your 3 roots, that's your genetics, how you digest, and then your inflammation, how much inflammation is in your body at one time. All of that stems from your gut and dictates what branches are going to be grown. The branches are then the symptoms and your diagnoses and the obstacles. So my gut was just so in a dysbiotic mess, which I mean, it didn't take 1 or 2 years to get there. It's taken several years, a lot of years of chronic stress and not efficiently dealing with that stress to get to that point. And it takes a while to get that gut back in order, but it took me to get to my body's breaking point to realize, like, hey, something really needs to be done with my diet, with my lifestyle, and there needs to be a change because I kept ignoring the signals, or I didn't know how to deal with the signals. And going back to the blood sugar issues, that reappeared then 8 years later. And my doctors basically they wanted to put me on more antidepressants. I had a glucose monitor. It wasn't dropping low enough, so I couldn't be diagnosed with hypoglycemia. Um, so yeah, it really it was not a good time for me. But that's when I started really getting into the microbiome and learning about the gut and realizing how important what we are ingesting and how we then help our bodies to help ourselves. It's a symbiotic relationship. So kind of reformulating that, reframing. It's not been easy, I'm not gonna lie, but I have so much support. And that's the other part of being a holistic practitioner as well, is the relationship part of it, not just with yourself, but with others too, because relationships can really bring in some toxins, and your body can respond to that. So, um, that's kind of really what I wanted to say, like how I got into all of this. And then another part of my story is intuitive life coach, and your mindset has such a big part of how you look at all of this. And so you want to stay curious, not um, critical or like super negative, because that's still feeding that negative spiral and can interfere with your gut. So, sorry, I'm overtaking everything, but that's kind of you got me on my little soapbox there. But yeah, so I literally got to the point where I felt like my body was shutting down on me. And that was the scariest point of my life ever. And a lot of it was from stress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love that that's the name of this, what we're talking about today, because this is so many people. This was my story too of and getting to that breaking point where if we're showing up and we're educating people on what these things look like, you might be at your breaking point, you might be getting there, but there's so much you can do on that way and spot along the way. I had a very similar story where I was 22 years old and I couldn't do bus duty as a teacher. And I kept telling myself that because it was so cold in Pennsylvania in the winters, that my hands, my fingers, and my toes at that point in my life were going what felt like into frostbite. I was in so much pain. And I just kept thinking, this is ridiculous. I'm the youngest one out here. Who am I to complain? And I kept telling my body, just like that mindset connection Jenna was just talking about, like, you're young, you're fine. You 5 more minutes, 3 more minutes, 2 more minutes. And I would do that every single day. And that's the thing, the body is always listening. So if we're saying, hey, this is survival, you need to prove that you're fine. You can't let anybody see you not fine. This is your career at stake. Whatever the story is for us, the body will respond and it'll say, okay, emergency situation, we'll get you through this. And that keeps happening until we do reach the point where we're in too much pain, and that's way greater. And so I just love that you just hit that right off the bat, Jenna, because I think so many of us have those stories, and that's why we're here now to say, hey, these are the warning signals. Here's some warning signs. As you get closer and closer, maybe you're at your breaking point. Maybe you feel like you've been hitting your breaking point and you're on the other side of it. But I think that's a big part of what we're here to talk about because I don't know about you girls, but I can't tell you how many people I've talked to for the very first time and they go, here's my list of symptoms. And I'm like, when did it start? Like, do you kind of remember? And they go, I just feel like I woke up like this. It wasn't, they'll say, it's like, there were some things going on, and then all of a sudden, this big dramatic bam thing happened. And now, when we're talking about stress and anxiety, it's the defining of that and what that can look like physically. There's just so many people where until it hits that breaking point, they're not really listening, or they're not really, the red flags aren't up just yet to really handle it and make it a priority. Have you girls experienced that? Hmm. And you might not have. Like the one people saying this feels like it just came on all at once.
I hear that pretty often, and I think it's so easy because as humans, like you said, people have like the job that they can't not show up to. They have to show up for their family or whatever their things that they've said that they would be at. We've agreed to be here and I agreed to be my best self, even I don't feel like it. And people have symptoms and they just push them back. And I think it just gets to be a habit. Just keep pushing it back to the point that they forget. I know for myself, when anxiety hits so hard, it was like a couple years later, and I thought, oh my God, years ago, I was actually in the hospital and they told me it was anxiety. And I was like, oh, weird, huh? I don't know. And then just kept going. And I'm really in touch with my body. And I thought, well, that's strange. It must have been that gluten that I ate that day. Like, gluten doesn't do well with me. And I just kind of disregarded it. And I see a lot of my clients do the same. You know, how come all of a sudden I can't drive down the street to pick up my child? I had a client ask me, it's like, well, yeah, but how many other things are going on?
Hmm.
And this client was telling me, she can't get sleep. She's working 80 hours a week. She's doesn't have support. And I think those are important things to look at as a whole. Especially as women, we can go, oh, but I'm not making my mark. But what else is on their plate? And I've had people tell me, but it's just this one thing. And I go, but imagine holding these trays and you have all your responsibilities on the trays. And then there's that one thing and someone's going to put it on there and it's just going to knock the tray over.
Mhm.
It's not just that one thing. It's that one thing that they're giving themselves credit for,
Mhm.
but not everything that's on their plate. And I think that's when something tips. And in response to like the immune system, people can go, oh, how come I'm always sick? Or how come I'm always having like a cold? Or how come I'm always having sinus stuff? When we don't have a balance of support for ourselves, something's got to give. And so I've talked about the threat bucket where everything that we have going on is in there. It's like the less capability that we have, the less capacity that we have, the larger that threat bucket's going to be. And so a little virus comes, it's not going to feel, like a big deal if we slept and we've ate well, we're surrounding ourselves with healthy people, we love our job. Maybe our body will fight it really well. But if we're already down and there's some toxic people in our lives that we haven't been able to have some boundaries with, and we're not sleeping, maybe there's mold in the house, that's a lot of things in our threat bucket. And our nervous system's going to get our attention with that.
Hmm.
So I think it's important to really give ourselves credit for what really is in our environment, what's on our plate. And then I think we'll see that no, it didn't just happen all of a sudden one day. It's been mounding and we've stopped being able to push through it like we used to.
Hmm. Yeah.
Didn't mean to laugh. Your excuse for, maybe it was just the gluten I had that the other day. Like gluten is just to blame for everything. So that's why I was laughing. Um, but yeah, so you think about, okay, that plate, it's full. You have a certain number of how I explain it to clients in your immune system. Think of them as different branches of the army. You have your Air Force members, you have your Army members, you have your Navy. So your immune system, actually, most of it resides in your gut. Yes, it is in other places of your body, but a lot of it is resides in your gut. About, I think the ratio is like 65 to 80. I just say 70 because it's right there in the middle. 70% of your immune system resides in your gut. So a lot of our food, has those, maybe some bacteria. If we don't wash our produce well, maybe there's a little bit of mold. Now we have to worry about pesticides and all these different random chemicals. And so it's a lot, like already on your plate, like you said, and it's taking up those resources from your Navy, from your Army, from your Air Force. Like all of these are already preoccupied. Then you throw in a virus. Well, we're already like, what do we do now? So your immune system, if you can help, like think about where you have the control, and that's typically, can't really control much of our air. Yes, you can get like an air purifier and but like when you go outside, like air is a little bit kind of iffy. Water, that's like becoming another big topic, but your food and what you ingest is like the biggest thing that you can control to help alleviate and free up resources, to help control that inflammation, to help control what all else is on your plate that we may not even know about. But that's how our body works for us, so that we can go out and, have fun and experience, go on hikes or, whatever you like to do, experience things, experience what is out there in the world.
Hmm. Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things when I first started getting into this work that was so important to me was I didn't realize because it was so steady how much my world had shifted and I wasn't getting outside and I wasn't going on those hikes because I felt like I couldn't. I felt like my body was killing me from the inside out. And I know so many people who have said that to me since, but when I was thinking it, I felt so alone. I felt so isolated. I felt like no one understood what I was going through. Only to find years later, so many people feel this way. And then we self-isolate because of so many factors outside of ourselves, but we make it about us. And I just want to shed some light on the two sides to this. So I started going through these very physical symptoms. And I mean, like, it started with leg numbness in my left leg. And it actually started over time, over not addressing this, it actually started giving out at work, which, of course, whoa, now it's affecting work. Now it's a problem. But for years before, when I'm just uncomfortable, it's like, I can get through the day. So my legs given out. I was a gym teacher for kindergarten through eighth grade, too. So that was, that's a little scary. That was going. I was having spinal shocks. I was having gut stuff, bloating, constipation. First time in my life, I started having panic attacks, but I didn't even know what that was. So I just thought something was going on with my heart, and I was just having these weird dramatic episodes. Excess sweating. We know temperature regulation is huge when your autonomic system is offline. Oh, and someone said infection. I was sick all the time and I was going, I'm a teacher. We all get sick all the time. I was making every excuse in the book for it. And it's so funny to think back because there was this very physical side, which made me think, well, if medicine and my primary doctor is saying nothing is wrong with me, my lab work is showing nothing is wrong with me, then I'm crazy because none of the numbers match. So it's got to be up here. It's got to be me. And now, who I work with and what I support is also understanding this mental side. So, if we're talking about dysautonomia and we're talking about some of the things that, if we describe them, we actually can see them, even though they seem more intangible. So, our involuntary nervous system that controls things like our heart rate, and we experience that, like Jenna was talking about, that palpitations in the chest, or not even feeling like you're getting enough air, shortness of breath, all of those things can come together. Um, the temperature regulation, we know that cortisol and blood sugar are absolute buddies. So cortisol spikes, boom, there goes your blood sugar. And we know if your blood sugar is doing this throughout the day because you're not eating in alignment with yourself, that's just going to have cascading effects in the gut and the immune system. So it's amazing to connect some of these dots and say, wow, if you're someone who is already has this advantage of walking into a room and you already pick up on an energy, you're already just have this fine-tuned dial of, and this is what I would say, like HSPs resonate with this, empaths. You can read on someone's face how they're feeling, how they're doing before they even say anything. You pick up on more. And that's amazing. But if we don't know how to control that dial and we often feel overwhelmed by it, this is a contributing physical stress that adds to that scale Wendee was talking about tipping us over the edge and then suddenly not being able to be in the rooms we want to be in. Whether for me, that was these amazing conferences when I was trying to get my health better, and there were these amazing things going on in the world, and I was just the beginning of my journey, and I thought, oh my God, I can't be in an airplane, I can't be in a room with more than 30 people, and that was really scary, and it was very confining. But the more that you learn from working with someone or going through your own journey, those are the nuggets that make it easier and easier. And one of my biggest come froms with working with people is because you have this greater awareness is these 1% and doing things gently, steadily. When you're introducing supplements, anything like that, it's not this giant protocol that you're just jumping into. In week one, you've got 15 new supplements, but really easing into things and understanding where your body is at now, where your nervous system is at now. Yeah, I wanted to touch on because I know a lot of us women, a lot of us intuitives that are in this work now we can resonate with that side of being empathetic in more ways than just toward people.
Those are such great points, Morgan. And when you were talking about like trying to be a PE teacher and your leg is starting to give out, and you're like, well, I think it's probably okay. I think it's so common, right, that our nervous system tries to keep us safe to the point that it will try to remove us from whatever situation we're in, whether that's a true threat or a perceived threat. So if we're feeling anxious, but we're not exactly sure, we're not connected to why, and our nervous system's like, well, let's have a seat. Let's just get out of this situation. You're like, no, we have to stay in this situation. Then we're almost wrestling with the anxiety and we're not getting clear messages from our brain and our nervous system. And so I think those are really important things. Like when I'm working with clients, I'm trying to make sure they're getting the clearest signals with their nervous system and their brain and their body because those little sensory things that come up can be scary. Especially when somebody already has anxiety and the imagination is swirling and it's like, what is that tingly sensation in my face? What is that tingly sensation, right? And then we're wildly like Googling it and going, worst case scenario. And so the
Mhm.
more safety that we can create in our body, the easier it is to help us to differentiate. Is this anxiety like because it's really trying to help me? Is there an actual threat? Is there a perceived threat? Or is this something more from low levels of certain vitamins? Or is this kind of a health thing that I should address in a holistic way that would help me also draw back that threat? And so being able to, then we understand which way we're addressing it from. Are we going straight to our nervous system, helping it to feel safe, doing specific movements, releasing some of those old patterns? Because a lot of HSPs and empaths, and myself included, we've kind of been through quite the obstacle course growing up, and there's a reason we learned to read faces. There's a reason that we've learned to listen to people's words or their footsteps. Because that, again, is assessing that safety. Am I safe in this environment? Um, if I'm in a room with 30 people, I can handle that. But if there's more, it's an overcapacity. Oh my gosh, I have to be able to read all these people's faces and assess if I'm safe in all of these people's presence. And so the more safety we can create in our nervous system, whether that's by, like to your point, sometimes we need to take ourselves out of that environment and give ourselves some, just some self-love in that way of just maybe laying down in between, having quiet so we're not constantly taking in that sensory and having to make sense of it. And then also making sure, like, who are we in a room with? If we're overriding our nervous system and our nervous system is saying, I don't feel safe, and it's like, be quiet, we're fine, we're going to be with all these mean people, that's not great. And that's going to cause our nervous system and our brain to work overtime, kind of to the point that Jenna was saying is, your body has all of these jobs to do, and you have all of these, like she was using military as an example, we only have so much of a staff and we can't give them all jobs and then expect like we don't have the B team to come in. It's like that's it. Everyone's maxed out. So being able to utilize our body in a way that works for us. And the biggest way is to make sure that we have safety. And, to your point of making sure that we've eaten well. If we haven't eaten, our body's on alert going, oh my gosh, we don't have food. It's not fully making that a logical choice of we'll just go to the kitchen saying we don't have food, we don't have enough food, alert. We don't have enough sleep. Are we going to be able to make it through the day? Can we go all the way through the day to complete all our tasks for our job? And then when it's something that affects our job, the alarms start to go off with, oh my gosh, how will I support myself if I don't have this financial piece in place? And so the more that we can give ourselves that foundation and just constantly be creating safety on top of safety, the less those threat patterns come up. And then the more clarity that we can have to understand which of those areas that we need to address. And to your point, Morgan, if it's supplements, coming in gently and going, hey, what's everybody think about this? We've been recommended a supplement, letting it kind of assimilate in our body, seeing how that feels, adding another layer of safety and continuing in that way so we're not overloading our system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's another good point. Like, um, I always say like, and we've all gone through the similar business coaches. Mindset is the first step. So making the decision, whether it's backed by this belief that you aren't safe, or we're under attack, whatever that belief message is coming through, you have to address that first. So we need to start very slow so we don't continue to overload. And I think that's why a lot of times when people go on diets and stuff, they do too much too quick. And that part, the amygdala part was like gets overloaded and is like, no, that's not how we do things. So let's go back. Let's just go back because that felt safe. Um, so yeah, just really picking one thing, starting with one thing, whether that's just thinking, like the first step is just reframing that thought process and that belief of, can I do this? Like, am I going to get better? Can we, am I able to get some good sleep? And that too falls into the nervous system then too. It overflows. Like all these pieces are just so connected and intertwined. But I did want to bring kind of the that belief part in there in the mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. We're all working to be better and support our people better, and because we learn from them all the way. And I actually have a really cool story. I'm curious if you girls have had this experience, but I agree with you, Jenna. Like when I think of the things that I assess when I meet someone, my brain is going over scanning the current symptoms. Um, if we're really going to work together and things are, I'm really taking them on, then the history, um, and then the lab work, especially functional. But the fourth one that I don't always, I'll mention it, but I've learned not to go too deep into it in the very beginning, and that's the beliefs. Because I've kind of burned myself and going, wow, oh my gosh, like I'm so excited. I'm like, you have this belief, da 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 da, and they're like, whoa. And I'm like, okay, maybe we weren't ready for that. And we start somewhere more gentle and we start into things that are just bridging the gap to where they are if they're not ready for um, the direct belief revelation right from the beginning. But the example that I'm curious if you've had experiences of this, because I've learned this because anxiety is so personal. Our protocols are so personal. And so someone will come to me and I won't know anything about them and they'll go, well, is fasting good? Is intermittent fasting good? And it's so funny to see how far you come as a coach or a practitioner of go, oh yeah, and telling somebody your thoughts on it and then kind of stepping back and realizing there's so much more to whether it's good for you. So I've had a lot of people with morning anxiety, and something that I've learned is with blood sugar, because I was talking about cortisol and blood sugar being hand in hand, is 30 minutes after you wake up when your blood sugar is at when your cortisol, I'm sorry, is at the absolute peak that it should be on a healthy bell curve for a person, because our body is innate. It's this innate intelligence that's waking us up. It's preparing for our meal, so it's giving us that natural cortisol as we wake up. And I've had people who track their continuous blood glucose monitor, and they go, "Oh my gosh, my blood sugar keeps getting higher, but I haven't eaten yet, so I can't eat because I'm afraid that it's going to go through the roof." But actually, the body has this ability to, our nervous system is like, when am I going to get the food? When am I going to get the food? And that cortisol, that stressor is what's raising the blood sugar. So until they eat, that is when the blood sugar finally comes back down and maintains that steady level. So with fasting, with different things, it's checking in with your nervous system so much too, as there's a scientific side to this of your blood sugar actually balancing and regulating when your body's going, oh, food, like Wendee was saying. So there's so many levels and there's so much person in this, personality, personal to your body and what experience of safety you are or are not communicating to it in any given moment. I just wanted to kind of connect some of those.
Yeah. These are all really good points. I think we could probably like talk all day about this. Probably. Is there any, just to be mindful of our time and our viewers' time? So, is there any like last thoughts around, when stress becomes physical, incorporating in that anxiety, the immunity, and the body's breaking point?
It might be cool if we wanted to give a practical tip, like where someone could start or something that you girls have learned or do even for yourselves. A little tool. I know I feel like Wendee's our tool queen. But anything that supported you or a client. Um, I know one that I love that's important for me is the breath work is amazing. And I know Jen is really into her breath work too. I know we share that love for the 90 that she does. So I have so many people who they have this mind over matter. They come in with trying to talk themselves out of a situation or talk themselves down from a panic attack. And I really like to flip it in matter over mind and using something physical to just anchor us back in so we can always use the breath work. And something that I love for families with littles is Cheerio breathing. So that's just a way to teach the concept of a slower exhale then your inhale to bring us back into regulation, back into a calmer nervous system if our brain is just going rah, rah, and we can't tell ourselves to just calm down. So it's just making your mouth like a Cheerio. And that way, when you breathe in and you are ready for your exhale with your mouth like this little circle, only so much air can escape. So it's in, pause at the top, and then when you make your mouth that little circle, which kids love this, it's that little Cheerio. Because I've had people tell me I can't slow down my exhales, like I can't. So any little things that we can just physically do, we don't have to think ourselves into, and just make your mouth that little, kind of like breathing into a bag. You're making it tangible. People who are really tactile or visual people remember that Cheerio.
Yeah. Think there is a breathing technique, and I am not a professional in breath work. I do like to do it, but it sounds similar to like that 4-6. So you inhale for 4, and then you exhale for 6 counts, and then you inhale for 4 and exhale for 6 counts. If that seems too much, kind of meet yourself where you're at. If I can just piggyback off of that a little bit. Then go with 3 and 5 until you can go up to 4 and 6. Or, if it feels too much, just pick something that feels good for you, but that is still in line with that breathing. But I think my practical tip, something that's like immediately coming up for me is just, okay, when I feel out of balance or like something's really going on, I have to actually ask myself some questions. So I actually get curious, like, okay, what is this telling me? I need to ask myself, how was my sleep last night? Um, what can I do right now for myself? Do I need to drink a glass of water? What is my hydration status? So I always kind of go back to that hydration because it does influence a lot. It's how it keeps our blood very viscous and thin so that our hormones, our nutrients, everything can flow and get circulated to where it needs to go. So I always and that's kind of the first question I ask my clients too is, how is your water intake? So that would be kind of my first practical tip is just take a beat, pause, and ask yourself some questions like, what's going on? Did I not sleep well? Am I fully hydrated? And I can go on and on and on. But I go back to the basics, and that's kind of what I do have a 6-week health foundations program. I guide people through those basics that helped me get to a more balanced level. So I think the biggest one, my practical takeaway is ask yourself, have you drank water today? Because now a lot of people, I think, it's you get busy with work, kids, you driving here and there, and so it's just a good question to kind of, and an easy one, I think, too sometimes, but it's also easy to forget. It's understandable if people go through the whole day, especially drinking, 4 and 5 cups of coffee, caffeine actually dehydrates you. So, where is the water?
This is a good ending. Where's the water? Where's the water,
Yeah.
guys? I have such a very short testimonial to that. When I did nothing but change my personal hydration, minerals, and water, I felt like the energy I unlocked from just that alone was insane. And I couldn't believe I didn't, that was such a simple thing. I was like, are you kidding? And I tried so hard for so long to be like, Morgan, remember water, remember water. It's so different when you learn why. So thank you for that, Jenna.
Mhm.
Morgan, I think
Great.
we could do an entire topic on just the importance of drinking water because I think people hear it parroted so much and they'll say, oh, I know I should drink water, but I just don't. But I think if they fully understood, I mean, they don't know why, they just know they should.
Yeah.
But I think if they knew why, I mean, that affects our blood flow. It affects like the quantity of blood, doesn't it? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, it's like if we really knew what not having water was doing, we're not flushing out our lymphatic system. It's just not giving, it's like just not putting oil in your tank of your car, like I know I should put oil in there, but gosh, I'll get to it next year. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty important. So, yeah, I think we could do an entire topic on that. For me,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say real quick, I'm actually, just to give a sneak peek for everybody, I'm actually working on a workshop all on hydration and
Jenna, so
adding
good.
electrolytes and minerals. So,
It's so
Nice.
important. Look at really right before this call, we were just talking about, and I don't know if you went so far, Jenna, as you were talking about your fascia and your connective tissue being hydrated. And we know that trauma is believed to be deep rooted in fascia. So, like, just a whole another lens of hydration and how important that is. Yeah, I love that you're doing a workshop. This could just go
Mhm.
on and on. It's so vital.
yeah, and Jen says electrolytes too. Yeah, there'll be electrolytes in there and everything. It's not just the water. Are you adding in electrolytes? Because
Yeah.
that gives your body so much information. Yeah. Sorry, Wendy. What is your practical tip for today?
No, that's fine. Um, I usually assess my clients' nervous systems because everyone is so different. And as much as I love the breath, there's clients that I'll tell them, even at them just hearing me say, okay, now take a breath, and they'll go like, and I'm like, are they even breathing? Like they clam up, they're not having it. And so I've had to come up with like creative ways. So as a side note, for anybody who's watching this, who has a little challenge with hearing the word breathe, bubbles outside is a really just low stress way to just be able to have that reminder to exhale. And then, but my tip is you can take your fingers almost like little bunny ears, and I'm gonna like you put them out, but then I'll be off screen. But is what you're doing is you're giving
Sorry.
yourself you're giving yourself um, sensory to activate your peripheral vision. So when we're in a state of anxiety, our eyes are sometimes tunneled in or locked in, like on a problem, whether there's an actual thing in front of us or we're just thinking. We're very much in our own space. We're not widening out. So a lot of people will say, oh, like start darting your eyes around and look at different places in the room. That can be supportive. But being able to just move your fingers, and then I'm using my peripheral vision up above, I'm using it to the side and down below. And that can remind your brain that you are indeed safe, because when you're using peripheral vision, you're using peripheral vision in a place where you know that you're safe. If there was a bear in front of you, you're not using peripheral vision, your eyes are converged and locked in on the bear. And so being able to just remind yourself, it's a way just to pull yourself a little bit out of anxiety. Obviously, if you're in full panic attack, we're going to do other acute tools. But if this is just like oh, I'm just thinking about something and I'm kind of overwhelmed, that's one tool that you can do. I think it's also great to remind people, though, that when somebody has anxiety, just like we were saying, people can go, oh, let me push through, let me push through. We're never using these tools to continue pushing through. These are tools to add to your toolbox so that you can reformat how you're living your life to be more intentional, more holistic, more in touch with yourself, and trusting yourself. So that when you come back and you can check in with yourself and go, well, do I want to take a supplement, or do I want to exercise or go outside? Your brain's not going, I don't know, oh my gosh. It's like, okay. And then you can start trusting yourself to make, a boundary and say, oh, I'm not available today. I can be available tomorrow. And so all of these tools, there's not one that's going to shift everything, but there's one that can open you up and give you an opportunity and go, oh my gosh, when I did drink that glass of water, I did feel much better. My threat level went down, and I actually noticed that I was more enjoyable that day. Or when I breathed in a specific way, I was actually able to to reach that baseline. Like I know it exists, so I want to be intentional on a daily basis and try to continue reaching this baseline so I'm not living up here in this erratic place.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a beautiful tool.
Yeah, thank you for that asterisk because I think so many people with anything, supplements, they're like, oh, this is gonna fix me. And you're like, oh, okay, we've got some other things to talk about.
Right? Well, and it will in so much. I mean, I have tried like some tinctures and I'll be like, oh my God, I love this tincture, or I love this tool. And it can be your most favoriteest favorite of all. And you can't go put yourself in muck and expect that this one thing is just going to keep cleansing you. It's like, no, like you get to address the different parts. And to your point, starting where it feels good, making that 1% changes. Morgan is our 1% queen, and I love it. Um,
Mhm.
but being gentle with yourself and going, okay, I know that this makes you feel safe. What else can I bring in to make myself feel safe?
Beautiful.
I know we could just keep going on and on.
I
Maybe
know we
it'd be good to
could.
them though.
I wanted to just ask, since Jen is here live, if there were any questions or any comments, anything you wanted to bring in.
No questions really, but they're all really great reminders, like, things I talk about and sometimes forget to do myself. And I love the little tips and tools always.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for showing up live. We appreciate it. Wonderful. Any closing thoughts, girls, or
I don't know. I think we've got some subtopics ready for the next couple months here.
I know, right?
It would be cool to do what you said you're teeing up for your hydration. I think that's a big one. I think fascia could be a really cool one as you're continuing to learn, Jenna. I'm obsessed with fascia too. I'm right there with you. There's so many, but I love that we keep dialing it back to our high functioning anxiety, our people who are go, 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 and they're in total survival until you connect or you meet someone somewhere, you see that there's another way. I think all of us somehow we got that signal or that flare up, and I'm so grateful. It took a lot of things to get me to snap out of it in a sense, or to realize, okay, I'm ready to make that change. It's time to make that change. I think that's a big
Same.
part of what we're all here for.
Me being a nurse too, I just kept like, no, I'll be fine. I'm fine. My vitals are fine.
Everyone else first, I come last. Yeah,
Yep. Mhm.
I gotta
I'm
take
not
care of
on a
me.
ventilator, so I'm fine.
Yeah, no, really. Well, my foot's not hanging off yet, so I think I can go
Yep,
another couple weeks.
it's fine. Well, thank you to you girls. Thank you to Jen for your time. And if anybody has any topics they want us to talk about, we're always open to suggestions for the next topic. Um, Morgan, do you want to put up our
Oh, I'm
QR
so
codes?
glad you reminded me. Yes, I can do that.
Yeah, so Morgan's going to be bringing up our little photo shoot here with our QR codes. You're welcome to take snapshots. We will, once the video is posted on YouTube, we will have links to our Facebook groups, our social media handles, wherever you can find us. We'd love to have you into our groups. And we also love feedback. So any feedback you have, any suggestions to help make this time more helpful for others, we're open to anything. So thank you all for your time and hope to see you on the next session. And thanks again, Jen. All right, bye everybody.
Bye-bye. Okay.